Her adoptive family calls her a failure, but then her billionaire husband steps in. Veronica stood in her sun-drenched studio, paint-splattered apron clinging to her waist like a second skin. The vibrant colors around her, emerald greens, rich reds, and the softest golds, were a stark contrast to the heaviness in her heart. She was an artist, with a talent that caught even the most discerning eye. Yet, in her adoptive family's view, she might as well have been painting in the dark. "Why can't you just get a real job, Veronica?" Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, filled with disappointment sharper than any brushstroke. It was as if the elegant suburban home, with sprawling gardens and marble countertops, weighed her down. How could she explain to them that beneath their perfectly manicured lives, the art world pulsed with a chaotic beauty that called to her? Suddenly the door burst open. "You have to see this!" Lucas, her billionaire husband, rushed in, eyes wide with excitement. His enthusiasm was infectious, momentarily drowning out the voices that haunted her. Lucas was everything she wasn't: successful, purposeful, and driven. Yet in his presence, she felt less like a failure and more like a dancer in a world of quiet shadows. "I'm listening," she replied, forcing a smile. He handed her a large canvas, each corner adorned with elaborate sketches. "I think we should have a gallery show. You're incredible, and you need to share your gift. The world deserves to see your art." But all she could think of was the weight of expectations pressing down on her. Did he really believe that fighting against her family's opinions would be so easy? Just then, Lucas paused, his gaze falling, and she saw a flicker of something deeper behind his cool demeanor. "Veronica, listen. I need you to promise me you'll keep painting. It's more important now than ever." His words lingered like smoke in the air, filling her with an unsettling sense of urgency. She watched him, her heart racing, as if he knew something she didn't. Just as she resolved to cling to her dream, Lucas shared a truth that crushed her spirit. He was sick, life-threateningly so. Panic surged through her veins, hot and sharp. Her artistic ambitions felt utterly trivial in that moment. What if she failed him? "I'll do anything," she declared, the gravity of his illness igniting a fierce determination within her. Days turned into nights as she poured herself into her work. But there were shadows lurking in the corners of their lavish home. In Lucas's office, she stumbled across letters, old and dusty, bound with twine. What was this? Curiosity helped her peel back the layers of their life, revealing hidden connections between their pasts that could destroy everything she thought she knew. Suddenly, a knock shattered her thoughts. The man from Lucas's company, a ruthless rival, stood in the doorway, a dangerous smile stretching across his face. "We need to talk," he said. Veronica's heart raced as she clutched one of the letters, feeling the rough paper against her trembling fingers. What secrets did it hold? Would uncovering the truth bring them closer together, or drive them apart forever? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Veronica's heart raced as the man from Lucas's company stood in the doorway, his smirk making her skin crawl. "We need to talk," he said, sliding into the room like a snake. She clutched the letter tightly, feeling its coarse texture dig into her skin. "About what?" she challenged, her mind buzzing with unease. "About your husband." His voice dripped with false charm. "You see, he hasn't been entirely honest with you." The world around her began to blur. Panic began to swell within her. What did he mean? "Get out," she said, her voice barely a whisper. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. You might want to sit down for this. The gall of him. She shook her head, refusing to let fear pin her to the spot. He tossed a file onto the table, papers rustling like whispers. Lucas's company is on the brink of collapse. His so-called illness, it's all a cover. He's been embezzling funds, dragging us all into a legal nightmare. Each word hit her like a punch, sending shockwaves through her body. No, that can't be. Her breath caught in her throat. She thought of Lucas, the way he'd been so open and loving. Could he really betray her like this? Oh, it's true. He knew about the risks, and he wanted to shield you from the reality. He didn't want you to live in a world where the truth would shatter you. But now? He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Now it's too late. Her mind raced, replaying every moment, every secret smile, every tender kiss. Was any of it real? Or was it all a well-crafted lie? What's more, he continued, his eyes glinting with malicious delight, the embezzlement doesn't just stop with him. You, my dear, are part of it. Any artwork you create will come under scrutiny. The gallery show? It's a distraction, a way to keep your eyes off the truth. Veronica stumbled back, her heart pounding. That's not true. You're lying. But his confidence eroded her resolve like sandcastles against the tide. You'll want to think about what comes next, he warned, looking at her like she was a pawn in a game, something to use and discard. And tell Lucas I said hi with that chilling statement. He turned and walked out, leaving the door ajar like a wound that refused to heal. She was utterly frozen, the weight of his words crashing over her. She heard the steady thump of her heart in her ears, an alarm bell ringing loudly. How could Lucas do this? The thought of him being anything but the loving husband she imagined made her stomach churn. Rage bubbled inside her, mixing with confusion. How long had he known? Why hadn't he told her about his struggles? She stared at the letter in her hand. The secrets it held were now a bitter reminder of everything she thought was safe. Then, as if the universe wanted to add insult to injury, her phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. We need to talk. I'll be home soon. No, she thought desperately. She wasn't sure she wanted to face him now. Sitting in that moment of uncertainty, everything she believed in felt like sand slipping away. Would they be able to face this together, or had the foundation of their love already cracked? As silence filled the studio, she couldn't shake the growing dread deep in her gut. What if he really was the man she'd just learned about? What if everything she loved was built on lies? The thought was suffocating. Before she could open her mouth, a heavy knock echoed through the house, jolting her from her thoughts. She rushed to the door, her heart pounding and uncertainty clawing at her. What awaited her on the other side? Would it be the truth, or another web of lies? Veronica stood frozen, the knock vibrating through her bones. The door creaked open just as she felt her breath hitch. She expected it to be Lucas, an apologetic smile on his face, ready to explain everything. Instead, it was her neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell, a whirlwind of energy and concern. Veronica, thank God! Her eyes widened as she rushed in, glancing around the dimly lit studio. You have to leave, now. What are you talking about? Panic gripped Veronica, her heart pounding louder than ever. What could possibly be happening? Mrs. Caldwell's face twisted with urgency. There's been an accident. A fire broke out at the company. I heard them saying it could spread to nearby homes. The words struck like a fist. Veronica's mind raced. The company? Lucas's company. She just learned it was in turmoil. Now. A fire? In that moment, the room felt like it was closing in, the air around her thick with dread. Is Lucas? She couldn't finish the sentence. Would he be safe? I don't know. Mrs. Caldwell grabbed her arm, urgency pulsing in every word. But we need to go. They're evacuating the neighborhood. Veronica hesitated, torn between leaving and the chaos swirling in her head. What if Lucas was in there? What if he didn't even know about the fire? Just as she turned to grab her bag, a loud explosion rumbled, shaking the foundations of their home. The walls trembled like they were alive. Now, Mrs. Caldwell pulled her toward the door. They burst outside to chaos. People running, sirens blaring, smoke swirling like dark fingers in the sky. Veronica's heart raced. She scanned the crowd, searching for a familiar face. Lucas! It escaped her lips like a prayer. Lucas! Mrs. Caldwell huddled close as they pushed through the throng. Near the chaotic center, she spotted Lucas in a flurry of activity. He stood in front of a group of firefighters, animated, gesturing wildly. Her heart soared and sank at once. But in that moment, another figure caught her eye. A man in a dark suit, lurking at the edge of the commotion, watching. His gaze felt chilling, like fingers trailing down her spine. It was the man from Lucas's company, the one with the deceitful smile. "Stay back," she whispered to Mrs. Caldwell, instinct kicking in. "I need to find out what he knows." This was not just about the fire. She needed clarity. With determination, Veronica shoved through the crowd, adrenaline pumping through her veins. As she got closer, she could hear snippets of conversation. "Insurance will cover it." "Nonsense," distraction from the truth. She was nearly within earshot when suddenly, chaos exploded. A second blast, louder and closer than the first, sent people diving to the ground. The air filled with dust and debris, screams echoing in the mayhem. Gasping, Veronica stumbled back, her heart racing even faster than before. She turned to look for Lucas, panic seizing her throat. Did he run toward the explosion? "Lucas!" she screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the din. It felt surreal. Then, out of the smoke, she saw him emerge, eyes wild, coat singed. "Veronica!" He charged toward her, but the grim man from earlier blocked his path. Their bodies collided, and a heavy silence fell between the pair. "What's going on?" Lucas shouted, adrenaline mixing with confusion. His eyes shifted to Veronica, and she felt it, the fear, the raw emotion. But just as he took a step forward, the dark-suited man smirked, saying something low and menacing. She couldn't hear it over the sirens, but she saw Lucas's face fall. Everything froze, as if the world stopped spinning. Was this about the embezzlement? Was this fire part of the lies? Just then, Veronica saw the man reaching for something in his coat. "No," she shouted as the reality crashed into her. Would she lose everything all at once? "Get down!" Lucas yelled, but the darkness surged forward, and in a split second, everything she thought she knew shattered like glass. As the smoke enveloped them and sirens echoed in her ears, Veronica's heart was racing for reasons that transcended fear. A hidden truth was about to come unraveling. What had Lucas really been hiding? What had she unknowingly stepped into? The world around her twisted into chaos as the shadows thickened, and in that moment, everything felt like a ticking time bomb. Time stood still, but the path ahead was uncertain. What would she learn next? Would they survive this? Veronica's heart raced as chaos erupted around her. The piercing cries, the frantic movement, it all merged into a whirlwind that threatened to swallow her whole. She caught a glimpse of Lucas through the thickening smoke, a wild look in his eyes, and her instinct screamed for her to reach him. This couldn't be the end, not here, not like this. Suddenly, a hot gust of air rushed toward her, forcing her to stumble back. Dust and debris swirled like a storm, disorienting her. She lost sight of Lucas, her pulse pounding in her ears. Time felt distorted, moving both too fast and achingly slow. She was pushed back by the crowd, desperate to cling to something familiar. Lucas! Her voice was raw. Where was he? She could feel panic clawing at her throat. Just as she pushed forward again, grasping the hem of Mrs. Caldwell's sleeve, another explosion rocked the ground, sending shockwaves through the crowd. Bodies fell, screams filled the air, and chaos turned to terror. Veronica shielded her eyes from the flying debris, but then she saw him. Lucas had broken free from the throng, his figure outlined against the smoke, moving toward her. Relief flooded through her veins, but just then, the dark-suited man stepped out from where he had been lurking, a sinister grin on his face. "Lucas," she shouted again, but everything blurred around her. The urgent faces of onlookers twisted into horror as Lucas confronted the man. Their bodies were inches apart, and she could feel an electric tension in the air, thick and dangerous. "Stay back," she yelled, pushing through the crowd, dread sinking into her gut. She was there, so close, but everything felt like slipping sand. The man's smirk twisted into a shred of menace. "You really should have listened, Lucas," he taunted, voice smooth like oil. "Now it's too late for both of you." What did he know? In that moment, every instinct screamed at Veronica to stop, but she couldn't. She needed to know. The world melted away as she pushed forward. But then something shifted. A loud crash interrupted everything. A section of the burning company building collapsed, sending a massive cloud of ash spiraling into the air. Time slowed as she watched Lucas's face turn from defiance to fear in a heartbeat. "Get down," he shouted, lunging toward her. The world exploded into chaos again. Bodies hit the floor. Chaos reigned. Everything went dark for an instant. Then, suddenly, silence. Veronica blinked through the haze, heart pounding in her chest. When the dust began to settle, it felt surreal. She gasped. She could feel a presence hovering over her. Lucas was beside her, a protective arm around her shoulders. But something wasn't right. His face was pale. And then she noticed. The dark-suited man was gone. But in his place stood another figure, a woman, stepping out from the shadows. She was tall, with striking features that seemed to glow against the wreckage. Her hair was swept back, and her eyes looked sharp, scanning the crowd with precision. "Lucas," she cried, and her voice held an undeniable authority. "You need to come with me. Now." Veronica blinked, confusion washing over her. Who was this woman? What did she want with Lucas? "Who?" she began, but Lucas held up a hand, his gaze locked on the woman. "It's fine, Veronica. Just fine?" Veronica shot back, her voice trembling with disbelief. "You're being pulled into a burning building, and that's fine? Who is she, Lucas?" He opened his mouth to reply, but before the words could form, the woman interrupted. "He's not who you think he is." Her words hung heavy in the air, laden with a gravity that made Veronica's stomach drop. The fresh panic mixed with the fire's heat as everybody around them seemed to vanish. Was Lucas hiding something even bigger? "What do you mean?" she demanded, stepping forward, desperate for clarity. "Your husband. He has secrets, Veronica. And if you don't come with me now, everything you both care about will be lost." With each word, Veronica's heart plummeted. She felt unmoored, like she was spiraling into unknown territory. Secrets? What secrets? But the woman just glanced back, firelight flickering in her eyes. "You really need to trust me, please." "Trust?" Veronica scoffed, feeling the weight of betrayal. She turned to Lucas, searching his eyes for any hint of truth. He opened his mouth, but the blast had ignited something deeper, a flash of raw fear. "Veronica, listen." Before he could finish, the building shuddered again, groaning under the weight of fire and smoke. The chaos resumed, swirling around them, drowning out everything else. Suddenly, the woman grabbed Veronica's arm tight. "We don't have time." But that's when Veronica noticed it. Something glinting on the woman's wrist. A familiar bracelet. A piece of jewelry Lucas had given her on their honeymoon. One he said belonged to a family member. "What?" Veronica breathed, realization crashing over her. "No." The woman met her gaze with an intensity that suggested everything was about to fracture. "It's time to choose. Him or me." What will it be? The words sliced through the haze of chaos, chilling Veronica to her core. Who was this woman? What did this mean for Lucas? How deep did the betrayal run? Panic surged through her. The flames of the building felt tiny compared to the fire raging inside her. In that moment of choice, truth and lies began to blur. What would she uncover if she followed this woman into the unknown? Or worse, what if Lucas had pulled her into a web of deceit from the very beginning? With the roar of fire behind her and the urgency of the moment crashing down, Veronica felt the foundations of her reality shift. The truth lurked just beyond her grasp. What would she discover if she stepped away from the burning chaos? Could she really trust Lucas, or had everything been a carefully painted facade? Veronica stood frozen, breathless, as the woman, with that familiar bracelet sparkling against the chaos, locked eyes with her. It's time to choose, him or me. What will it be? The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Veronica's heart raced. Was Lucas involved in something dark? Something sinister? Everything felt like it was spiraling out of control, and she needed to know the truth. But first, who was this woman? Just then, another explosion roared, echoing through the rubble, startling everyone around them. Dust billowed up, choking the air and blurring the world into shades of gray. Veronica instinctively grasped at Lucas, who stood beside her, twisting his gaze between the woman and the fiery inferno that threatened to consume them. "Lucas, what's happening?" she implored, desperation spilling from her voice. "Just stay by me," he shouted over the growing chaos. But as he spoke, the woman took a step forward, eyes glinting with urgency. "You don't understand, Veronica. Everything he told you, about his illness, about the fire, it's a ruse. He's not just a businessman. He's deeply involved in something dangerous. And if you stay here, you could be putting your life at risk." Words tumbled around in Veronica's mind, like loose paint on a palette. What are you talking about? The shifting realities left her dizzy, balancing between trust and betrayal. Another blast shook the ground. Lucas grabbed her arm, pulling her closer. "Ignore her. We need to get out of here." But just then, the woman's expression shifted from urgency to something else, something more personal. "You don't really know who you married, do you?" she hissed, narrowing her eyes at Lucas. "You think I didn't see it? The hidden bank accounts? I saw the numbers, Lucas. In a month, you'll be in way over your head." Veronica's stomach dropped as that shake of resentment washed over the firelight. Secret bank accounts? Lucas had always portrayed himself as the honest businessman, the kind-hearted soul swept up in the chaos. "I don't know what she's talking about," Lucas barked, the raw edge of panic creeping into his voice. "Just stop it, please." But the woman pressed on, her tone sharp. "I've been watching you for a long time. I know how hard you've worked to cover up your tracks. It's only a matter of time before the law knocks on your door and they'll take her down with you. You have to leave her out of this." The crowd surged around them, the chaos swirling, yet all Veronica could feel was a dizzying sense of betrayal. She was about to scream, to demand the truth, when suddenly the ground trembled ominously. Then it happened, a sudden flash of bright light as the building's facade crumbled. Metal and debris exploded outward, raining down like a horrifying storm. Veronica shielded herself, reality blurring as she screamed for Lucas, her fingers slipping from his grasp. Desperate voices around her echoed threats of fire and evacuate, but the world narrowed down to just Lucas. She watched in slow motion as a beam of concrete hurtled toward them. Time stretched, her heart rose into her throat, and all that filled her mind was fear, a suffocating, all-consuming dread. "Veronica," Lucas shouted, lunging forward, but the explosion had created a chaos that was impossible to penetrate. The walls of her reality caved in, and she found herself stumbling backward. Then, in a breathless twist, everything changed. The dark-suited man, the one who had been lurking, appeared again, moving through the crowd with a sinister air. He caught her eye, and in that fleeting moment, a glint of recognition passed between them. And then he shouted, "Get down!" The scene exploded into darkness, and just before the chaos swallowed her, she saw Lucas's frantic, terrified face, a mask of pure desperation. "Veronica, no!" In that instant, the world went silent. Everything she thought she knew shattered like glass. There was a secret about Lucas, a web woven too tight. Truth danced just out of reach. Now, lying in the dust, she felt the weight of choices pressing down on her. What had she uncovered? And who truly stood before her? Her husband, or a master of deceit? The lines were blurred, and as darkness swallowed her, one question lingered. Could she ever trust him again? Veronica lay on the ground, dazed, with the chaos swirling around her like a vicious storm. Her heart raced as she tried to make sense of what just happened. Lucas's terrified face flashed back to her, eyes wide with fear, a desperate plea that still echoed in her mind. Flashes of smoke lit the darkness around her. Searing heat kissed her skin, reminding her just how close danger was. And then she heard it, an unmistakable sound in the chaos. A soft, yet commanding voice broke through the panic. "Get up!" It was the woman with the bracelet, the one claiming to know everything about Lucas. Before Veronica could even respond, the woman yanked her arm, pulling her to her feet. "Come on, we can't stay here." "Where's Lucas?" Veronica gasped, her throat tight as confusion twisted her. Feelings into a knot, she squirmed in the woman's grip, desperate to get back to him, back to that panicked expression and the warmth of his presence. Time is slipping. He's in danger. The woman's words were urgent, cutting through the chaos like a knife. She glanced around, eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. "Trust me. You have to trust me." But how could Veronica trust anyone? Not now, not when everything felt like it was crashing down around her. As they maneuvered through the frantic crowd, she caught sight of Lucas again, still trying to break free from the throng, still fighting for her. "Lucas," she screamed, reaching out, but the sound was swallowed by the chaos. A cacophony of screams, cries, and the thunderous roar of the fire drowned her out. Just then, a sharp, piercing whistle cut through the noise, freezing everything in its path. Veronica's heart dropped. What was that? The ground trembled again, more violently this time, and she felt that sense of dread coil tighter around her heart. Suddenly, the dark-suited man appeared again, his face twisted in a grin that sent chills down her spine. He had been watching them. Watching. Waiting. "Let her go," Lucas shouted, adrenaline firing through his voice as he pushed closer. But the woman tightened her grip on Veronica, pulling her back. "Stay away from him." The dark-suited man laughed, a sound as sharp and cold as ice. "You think you can save her? You're too late." "What do you mean?" Lucas's confusion flickered, but there was something darker in his eyes, an anger that was slowly morphing into panic. It all happened in a flash. The woman's expression shifted suddenly, veering from urgency to something more malevolent. She released Veronica's arm and stepped back, as if the very air around them had changed. "You have to understand, Veronica. The truth is far uglier than you know." In a flash, she pulled a small device from her pocket, a remote, and pressed it. And suddenly, an explosive sound ripped through the air. Veronica's heart raced, eyes wide as the ground shook violently beneath her. Then there was silence. Stunned, she looked around. Had they just... The tension cracked like a whip, and the air filled with an unnatural stillness, broken only by the faintest whispers of disbelief from the crowd. "Everyone down," a voice rang out. Firefighters were shouting, rushing to contain the chaos spiraling from the building. But something felt off. Everything felt off. Veronica's eyes darted back to the woman. "What did you do?" Panic edged her tone, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The dark-suited man smiled wider, taking a step toward them. Let's just say the stakes have been raised, and your precious husband isn't the innocent man you think he is. Shut up, Veronica shouted, anger boiling inside her. She needed answers. But then, another booming explosion erupted, directly behind Lucas. He was knocked off his feet. "Lucas!" she screamed, pain lacing her words. The dust and debris clouded her vision, and everything felt like it was slipping away. She pushed through the fog, fighting against the panic rising in her chest. Was he?
All right. The world began spinning again, and she felt the shadows closing in. But then something caught her eye. A glint, something shiny amidst the wreckage. Before she could process it, she caught another movement from Lucas. He was stirring, looking dazed but alive. Relief washed over her. Then confusion rolled back in like a wave. "Lucas, are you hurt?" she yelled, her voice trembling with fear. He stood, shaking but focused, eyes darting between her and the woman. "Get away from her!" Caution mixed with urgency. She felt it. A heavy tension crackling between Lucas and the woman, like static waiting to burst. But everything shifted again. The woman ripped her bracelet off her wrist, tossing it toward Lucas. The moment it passed through the air, a small detonator slipped from her hand. Veronica's heart raced as realization dawned. The woman wasn't just connected to Lucas, she was behind it all. The chaos, the lies, everything wasn't just about an embezzlement scheme anymore. "Time's up," the dark-suited man hissed, stepping closer, eyes burning with manic energy. "What do you mean?" Lucas shouted, face pale, but a flicker of recognition appeared. "Your secrets will come out. Now," the woman sneered, and in that moment, Veronica felt the ground fall out from under her as everything crumbled around them. And then, darkness. Before she could ask what it all meant, what they were entwined in, everything around her exploded again. Would they survive? What truths would be left to uncover as shadows enveloped them in chaos? Veronica lay there, and the chaos exploded around her. Adrenaline pumped through her veins, her pulse loud in her ears. Each breath felt heavy, laden with ash and dread. What was happening? The ground shook again, a vicious tremor, and she realized it wasn't just the fire. Something was off. Deep down, she felt the chill of betrayal creeping closer. "Lucas," she shouted, frantically scanning through the dust. His figure moved through the haze, but something else lurked behind him. The dark-suited man was smirking again, his eyes glinting with a twisted satisfaction. "No, not now." "Veronica!" Lucas shouted again, panic infusing his voice. He lunged toward her, but the ground rumbled ominously once more. The inferno behind them would swallow everything alive. "Get back! Everyone get down!" a firefighter shouted, but it was too late. The building creaked, old bones cracking, and another explosion rocketed through the air like a death knell. Veronica held her breath, a scream caught in her throat. The fire illuminated the night, but it was darkness that enveloped her. The heat scorched her skin as debris flew. The world blurred into chaos and time felt suspended. "Enough!" the woman shouted, stepping forward. Screams echoed, bodies lurched, and smoke wrapped around them like a shroud. It all seemed surreal. "Tell me the truth," Veronica demanded, voice raw from the smoke and fear. "What's going on?" "Lucas has been in over his head for a long time," the woman replied, eyes fierce. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't care." "Don't listen to her," Lucas shouted back, panic spilling over his features. "Get away from her. You don't know what she's capable of." "Capable of?" What did he mean? She felt the weight of her decision press down on her. In that moment, the woman jerked her arm back, revealing something small in her hand, a flash drive. "This proves everything," she said, her voice firm, despite the chaos around them. "It's all on here. Lucas's true colors." Veronica's heart raced. "What do you mean, true colors?" But just as she grasped what was happening, it all shifted. The dark-suited man lunged. Time slowed. Suddenly, he struck the woman, knocking the flash drive from her hand. It clattered to the ground, spinning in a frenzy. "No!" Veronica screamed, lunging for it. But before she could reach it, the man swept it up, eyes flashing, holding it high. This little piece of evidence changes everything. Then, something crashed behind them. A wall buckled and collapsed into the street. The roar of fire melted into utter chaos. The moment felt frozen. Just then, a shadow darted from the edge of the chaos. Someone with shockingly familiar features. A face Veronica never expected to see. Mom? Her heart sank as she recognized her own mother, stepping through the smoke, determined yet shaken. How did she even know to be here? "Veronica," her mother shouted, breathless, eyes wide with fear. "We need to go, now." Questions flashed in Veronica's mind, but all she could feel was urgency. Lucas was still shouting, but it felt muted beneath the roar of flames. What was she supposed to do? She was lost in a storm of feelings: betrayal, anger, fear, confusion. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Veronica yelled, heart racing. Now was not the time for family drama. "I came to find you." The dark-suited man chuckled, stepping closer. "This gets better and better. You might want to take a step back, miss. Your family tree has some rotten roots." "Shut your mouth," Lucas snarled, shaking with rage as he took a step forward, emotions on the edge of explosion. But it was the flash drive that drew her eyes again. If it held the truth about Lucas, she needed to know. "What's on it?" she demanded. "Your precious husband's crimes. Darling, money laundering, embezzlement, oh, and a deal that would ruin both of you." He smirked, knowledge sliding beneath every breath. Her heart pounded harder, amplifying every fear she'd pushed aside. Could he really betray her like this? The very foundation of her reality was unraveling. "Mom, I need you to trust me," she said, fear spilling into her words. But just as she turned back, everything shifted again. There was a deafening roar, followed by an ice-cold explosion that rocked the ground beneath them. A blast of raw power shook the air. She was thrown to the ground as debris rained down. In the chaos, her vision blurred, and she glimpsed Lucas reaching for her, mouth forming her name. But it was drowned out. It was like watching him through glass. And then, just like that, the world went dark again. The weight of everything pressed down on her. In that instant of nothingness, a final thought clawed to the surface. Who did she really trust? And what if everything she thought she knew about Lucas was a carefully painted lie? The darkness grew deeper, and as she slipped away, a chilling question haunted her. What truth would finally emerge from the wreckage? The world was dark. Veronica felt the weight of everything pulling her down. She was lost, suspended between fear and confusion, memories colliding like waves crashing against a shore. She could barely breathe as silence engulfed her. And then, somewhere in the distance, a sound emerged. A faint chorus of voices blurred into a murmur. "Veronica, Lucas." The sound of his voice was a lifeline, but it felt muffled, like he was shouting from the other side of a thick wall. She clawed her way back into consciousness, forcing her eyes open. Finally, she came to, gasping for air, her heart racing at the chaos swirling around her like a tempest. Suddenly, bright lights pierced the darkness. Shouts echoed, hands grasped her arms, jerking her upward. "We need to go." It was her mother, panic written all over her face. But all Veronica could think was about Lucas. "Where's Lucas?" She pushed against the weight of her mom's grip, eyes darting around. The smoke thinned, revealing wreckage around them. The streets were slick with water, and the air was thick with despair. "Over there," her mom shouted, pointing into the thick haze. But just as her mother turned, the dark-suited man appeared again. He stood at the edge of the chaos, surveying the scene like a predator. "Look at you, playing the hero," he sneered, a sly smile creeping across his face. "No!" Veronica screamed, moving toward him instinctively. "You stay away from us." He stepped forward, eyes glinting. Oh, I wouldn't want to cause a scene, not with so many watching. Watching? She twisted her neck, and in that moment, everything tipped into chaos again. The crowd shifted, people whispering, pointing. The realization hit hard, like a punch to the gut. Cameras flashed. News crews filled the scene, capturing the wreckage, the fear, the emotions spilling over. Only then did she notice the approaching figure with a microphone. Oh my God! They'll show this to everyone. Veronica's voice cracked. This couldn't happen. People around her began to murmur. Did you hear? The whole company's going down. No way he was innocent. They're saying the wife was in on it too. Stop, she shouted, desperation spilling over. But everything was spiraling. Lucas, the woman, and the dark-suited man were lost in a sea of confusion. As she turned to try to locate Lucas again, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. The betrayal, the sadness clawed at her heart, intensifying with every second. Lucas, she shouted again, but as fire erupted again behind her, the crowd gasped. Everything was louder than before. Screams, sirens, the sound of chaos enveloped them. But then something miraculous happened. As if time had paused, she saw Lucas rush forward, his expression a mix of fear and determination. He cut through the crowd, eyes locked on her. Veronica! It felt like hope sparked to life. But just then, everything changed in a heartbeat. The dark-suited man grabbed Lucas by the collar, dragging him close. You can't run from your past, Lucas. The crowd hushed. Everyone watched. Breath held tight.
What do you mean? Veronica's voice trembled, fear creeping in again. The truth felt as volatile as the smoke around them, and then, in an instant, the man pushed a small plastic card into Lucas's hand. You're not who you think you are. Veronica's heart pounded. What does that mean? The dark-suited man's grin widened. Your husband is not just a businessman, sweetheart. He's been living a lie. Your family has been part of it for years. Stop this. Lucas snapped, but the words felt hollow. What hidden world was being revealed? Then the unthinkable happened. The woman lunged, knocking the card from Lucas's grip. It clattered to the ground, revealing bright letters in the wreckage. The same familiar letters that were on the bracelet. This belongs to you, she shouted, pointing at Veronica. As realization crashed over her, she gasped. The truth was unraveling. The connection she felt with the woman spiraled, turning into horror. Wait, what? In that moment, the winds shifted. The dark-suited man stepped back, raising his hands. You might want to choose your next words carefully, Veronica, because if you keep digging, you'll uncover secrets that will unravel everything you ever believed. Veronica's pulse quickened. What had she stumbled into? In that heartbeat, everything shifted. Dark truths hung heavy in the air, threatening to swallow her whole. Secrets, she whispered, eyes darting. All at once, clarity dawned. Their lives had intertwined like a twisted web, and now it was all coming undone. But before she could gather her thoughts, the ground rumbled again. This time it was not the building falling apart. It was the truth, a revelation that would change every fiber of who she thought she was. Your father, the man said, voice low and dangerous, was the one pulling the strings all along. Everything froze. Every heartbeat echoed through the chaos. The world tilted, and she knew nothing would ever be the same again. Would the truth shatter them? What else lay hidden? And who could she really trust now? Veronica's heart thumped loudly in her chest, drowning out all the chaos around her. The revelation hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Her father? What did that even mean? Your father was the one pulling the strings all along. The dark-suited man's words echoed like thunder. Veronica felt the ground beneath her shift. Could it be true? Had everything she believed been a web of lies tangled by her own blood? Lucas's eyes widened, bewilderment creeping in. Don't listen to him, Veronica. He's just trying to manipulate you. The crowd was still, gazes shifting from her to Lucas, anticipation humming in the air. The fire crackled in the background, flaring wildly like the tension between them. Why would I lie about this?
The man smirked, leaning closer. You've chased the truth for so long, but I'm here to return you to your reality, or yours will shatter. Stop, just stop, Veronica breathed, the air thickening with confusion and dread. And then, without warning, the woman at Lucas's side pulled out a gun. Yes, a gun. The chaos reached a new crescendo. Time froze. Get down, she barked, as people screamed and scattered. The world blurred into panic, fear taking hold. Lucas lunged for Veronica, the instinctive need to protect her radiating from him. Veronica, no! But the woman's grip didn't waver. The dark-suited man stepped back, a wicked glint in his eye as he relished the moment. One shot fired, echoing like thunder. Had she really pulled the trigger? Veronica felt the world tremble. She dropped to her knees as the adrenaline surged, heart hammering against her ribs. Desperation clawed at her throat. Why? Why are you doing this? The woman laughed, a sharp, piercing sound. I needed you both to see. But before she could explain, the power flickered. The lights above went out, plunging them into darkness. Moments felt endless, everything spiraling, the air electric, full of unresolved tensions and secrets. Lucas, Veronica called into the void, fear clawing at her throat. Silence answered, thick and heavy. Was he okay? Did she just lose him? Panic surged, and then, a second shot. This time the air shifted. Veronica felt it, the impact. Then the warm trickle on her arm. Someone was bleeding. She felt the heat, a pressing weight that was real. Get back. The voice sliced through the dark. Lucas. No, it was someone else. Confused and frantic. People pushed past her, their faces pale with fear and disbelief. Stop shooting, another voice cried from the shadows. Veronica pulled herself up on shaking legs. She glanced at the woman, who stood wide-eyed, gun trembling in her grip. What have you done? But just as confusion flooded back, a cascade of whispers ignited through the crowd. Fight, or your lives, someone shouted. And in the darkness, something shifted. The dark-suited man lunged forward, reaching for the gun, but the woman spun around. Get away from me, she screamed, letting another shot fly. But in that moment, everything came crashing down. A painful realization hitting Veronica like a freight train. No, you're not who we thought you were. Just then, another explosion erupted from behind, an exploding fireball ripping through the air. The ground shook, and Veronica fell, the world collapsing around her. Smoke filled her lungs, and chaos reigned. In the midst of it all, she saw a flicker of the truth. The dark-suited man reached for something tucked in his coat. Something shiny. Something she instantly recognized. The flash drive. Her heart raced as she realized he has the missing pieces. Then, just as everything swung into focus, her worst fears solidified. From the ashes of chaos, she saw Lucas struggling to rise, eyes wide with shock. Veronica! But the woman's expression changed, eyes filling with grief. It's not what you think. I'm doing this to protect you. And that's when everything shifted again. The dark-suited man pointed at the rubble, shouting, It's too late now. Your family is already tangled in this mess. And suddenly Veronica understood. This wasn't just about Lucas. This was bigger. This was about everything she had known, everything they had fought for. Betrayal upon betrayal, twists upon twists, her breath caught. Was it really all unraveling? Would her trust shatter along with their lives? Then in the darkest moment, as police sirens wailed in the distance and smoke wrapped around her like a fog, a chilling truth settled in her bones. The darkness pulled close, ready to consume everything. What would she do now? What kind of nightmare had she walked into? As the flames licked higher, one question lingered. Was she too late to save everything she cared for? The world swirled around Veronica, a chaotic blend of smoke and panic. Then everything shattered as she heard a muffled voice. Lucas, fighting against the darkness closing in like a heavy cloud. Veronica. His desperation drew her like a magnet. Through the haze, she saw her mother pulling back, fear etched across her face. The dark-suited man stood menacingly, framing their escape. The gun trembled in the woman's grip, her eyes wide and vacant, devoid of reason. "Don't." Veronica's voice thin but determined. The last thing she wanted was more blood on their hands. She moved forward despite an avalanche of noise and chaos. Fight or flight instinct already balancing on the edge of desperation. As if time froze, she reached Lucas, their eyes locking with a powerful intensity. "What's happening?" she gasped, knowing her world teetered on the edge. His gaze was a mix of defiance and fear. "I don't know, but we need to stick together." Suddenly, another roar erupted. This time it was the building collapsing, but that distraction placed everyone off balance. The grip of the woman faltered as terror swept through her. "Now!" Lucas shouted, dragging Veronica down as debris scattered above them. They hit the ground, hearts racing in sync. She could feel his breath, warm and fierce against the cold sweat on her skin. Then, the dark-suited man swept back in, scrambling to retrieve the flash drive he had dropped in the explosion. "You think you can escape?" His face twisted with anger. "The truth can't hide forever," shouted the woman, fear flickering in her eyes. "You need to listen to me." "Enough!" Lucas roared, his energy igniting the air, even as darkness and dust colluded. He stood, eyes blazing. "What do you want from us?" The dark-suited man, realizing the game was up, smirked. "I want what's mine, and I'll burn down everything to get it." He lunged, but at that moment, the woman turned and aimed her gun, her voice sharp as glass. "Stop right there." A moment of standoff turned electric. In that heartbeat, the world teetered on the edge of collapse. Veronica couldn't think, couldn't breathe as the tension hung thick. But then something shifted. They were all aware of it. Everything around them was crumbling, but here was the space for truth to ignite. "None of this should have happened. You manipulated us," Veronica screamed, her voice ringing with pain. "We deserve to know." With sudden resolve, she stepped forward, shaking with rage and pain. Beneath her, the crowd murmured, shocked faces caught in the grip of their unfolding drama. Somewhere, beneath it all, was a flicker of power, the truth pushing past fears. The dark-suited man hesitated, faltering. "Your father." His voice softened for just a moment. "He used you both. And you thought dragging us into this would keep us safe?" Lucas shot back, eyes blazing now. But before they could respond, the woman swung the gun toward the dark-suited man. "You're lying. This ends now. I refuse to let him destroy you." Her words held a weight that pushed through the chaos and reached deeper. The gun went off with a sharp crack, shocking silence slicing through the air. But rather than end things, it shattered the veil they'd all carried. Rage morphed into clarity, breaking free of old shadows. "Let's finish this together," said Veronica. Raw courage courses through her veins. She grabbed Lucas's hand, squeezing tightly. "What do you say?" "Together," he affirmed, eyes steady with newfound strength. In that moment, everything changed. Each pulse felt like a drum, uniting them against the hopelessness surrounding. The dark-suited man fell back, fear slipping into his expression as the crowd surged forward to push him out of their lives. "Everyone step back," shouted a firefighter filtering through, urgency filling the space as additional personnel arrived to assist. In the wave of hands and shouts, the atmosphere shifted. The crowd surged, protecting their own from old sins clinging dangerously close. But all Veronica saw was Lucas, standing resolute with her, strength emanating from them both like a beacon amidst chaos. "Listen," she breathed, her voice steady. "The past doesn't define us any longer. We write our story from here.
Lucas nodded, and in their gaze she saw hope, as if they could leap into the light. They turned away from the chaos, toward tomorrow, burning bright with potential. As they took their first steps into the open air, the sirens wailed softly in the distance. Inferno behind them turned to embers, but they, united and marked by pain, were reborn. She felt a tear fall, catching in the tender flicker of a smile, flickering against the dark. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it, not alone. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button right now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. You have to subscribe right now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this. Only real fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.